Hi, grade twos. I hope you had a good weekend. Today is Tuesday, and it's our first day of our online learning. So I hope it's going okay. Just remember to be patient. Be patient with your parents, right? Because we're all learning and we're all trying to make the best of it. But I hope you're enjoying it. And if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll help you the best you can. Today's story is so funny. I'm gonna be laughing during it, so I'm gonna say sorry right now. But it's just so funny, and it's kind of like a story that you guys know, a pretty popular fairy tale. So I want you guys to be thinking about what you think the book is about. But it's called Bubba and the Cowboy Prince, a fractured Texas tale. Okay. One day, a strapping young feller named Bubba lived on a ranch with his wicked stepdaddy and his hateful and lazy stepbrothers, Dwayne and Milton. Bubba's stepdaddy spoiled Dwayne and Milton to no end, but Bubba worked from sun up to sun down, doing the chores of three ranch hands. Bubba never complained, though. He loved ranching. Bubba and the wicked stepbrothers. Dwayne and Milton spent their days on horseback, bossing Bubba around. "Get them doggies along there, Bubba," ordered Dwayne. "Yeah, and watch out for them cow patties," added Milton. "You know how Daddy hates for you to track up the house." You guys know what cow patties are? Poor Bubba, working hard. Now, Miss Lurleen, who lived down the road, was the prettiest and richest gal in the county. She owned the biggest spread west of the Brazos, and she loved ranching. But it was lonesome work, and after a while she decided it was time for some companionship. "I aim to find myself a feller," she said, "one who loves ranching as much as I do. And it wouldn't hurt if he was as cute as a cow's ear." Miss Lurleen decided to throw a ball. She sent invitations to all the ranchers in Texas. There she is. Whoop. Soon the day of the ball arrived. Milton and Dwayne spent all day getting gussied up in their finest duds. Bubba about ran himself ragged waiting on them. "Bubba," shouted Dwayne, "fetch my bow tie." "Bubba," shouted Milton, "get my boots polished." "Bubba," shouted his wicked stepdaddy, "brush them horses and wash that wagon." By the time Dwayne and Milton and their wicked stepdaddy were ready to go, Bubba was exhausted. Still, as they climbed into the wagon, Bubba asked, "Can't you wait for me to get ready? I want to dance with Miss Lurleen too." Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy hooted and hollered. "Why, you're sorrier than a steer in a stockyard," said Dwayne. "Can you imagine Miss Lurleen dancing with the likes of you?" said Milton. "Miss Lurleen wouldn't even wipe the dirt off her boots with that raggedy shirt of yours, and you smell more like the cattle than the cattle do." Bubba took a look at himself. It was true. He didn't have a decent shirt to wear, his boots were downright disgraceful, and he did smell a bit rough. Milton and Dwayne were right. Miss Lurleen wouldn't dance with the likes of him. Bubba hung his head. He felt lower than a rattlesnake in a gully. Milton and Dwayne and their wicked daddy went off to the ball. Bubba mounted his horse and headed for the pasture to check on the herd. The sky was getting darker than a black bull at midnight. It looked like a Texas thunderstorm was brewing. What is in the sky? Poor Bubba. Bubba had just arrived at the cow pasture. when a bolt of lightning struck, knocking him off his horse. Bubba was stunned for a moment, but when he picked himself up, he heard a voice. "Go to the ball, Bubba," said the voice. Bubba looked around. No one was there except him and the cows. Who could be talking? Okay. Now, Bubba figured he'd bonk the bejeebers out of his bean. Because the voice was coming from a cow. She chewed her cud and then said, "I'm your fairy god cow, and I can help you go to the ball." Bubba sat up, rubbing his head. "I'd like to go, Miss God Cow, but shoot, I don't have a thing to wear." The, the fairy god cow swished her tail, and Bubba's raggedy clothes changed into the most handsome cowboy duds he'd ever lay eyes on. His jeans were crisp, his boots were shiny, his shirt was dazzling, and his Stetson was whiter than a new salt lick. "Why, I look downright pretty," he said. The fairy god cow swished her tail, and he turned into a handsome cowboy. There's more. The fairy god cow swished her tail again, and a nearby cow turned into the most beautiful white stallion Bubba had ever seen. "Now, you go off to the ball, Bubba, and have a good time dancing with Miss Lurleen, but you'd best be home by midnight, 'cause that's when the magic runs out." "Yahoo!" shouted Bubba as he jumped on the white horse and galloped off to the ball. There he goes. When Bubba arrived, the hoedown was in full swing, but every time Miss Lurleen finished a dance she yawned. "There goes another $10 Stetson on a 5-cent head," she complained. "Where are all the real cowboys?" By the time it was Bubba's turn to dance with Miss Lurleen, it was almost midnight. Soon as she saw Bubba, Miss Lurleen's eyes lit up. She said, "Why, you're as cute as a cow's ear." Bubba blushed and then took Miss Lurleen in his arms and started dancing. Dwayne and Milton turned purple with jealousy. "Who is that dude?" said Dwayne. "I don't recollect seeing him before, but he looks a little bit familiar," said Milton. "Do something," said their wicked cow daddy. "That cowboy is winning Miss Lurleen's heart." Dancing. As it turned out, Milton and Dwayne didn't have to do a thing, because Bubba and Miss Lurleen were in the middle of do-si-doing when the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, Bubba's fine clothes turned into dirty rags he usually wore around the ranch. He looked sorry, and he smelled even worse. "What is that awful smell?" asked Milton. "Why, it's Bubba!" shouted Dwayne. Bubba turned 14 shades red, apologized to Miss Lurleen, and ran out of the room. "Wait!" she yelled, chasing after him. What do you think's going to happen? But Bubba did not wait. He jumped on his cow and lumbered off into the night. In the ruckus, he lost one of his cowboy boots. Miss Lurleen clasped it in her arms. "This is the boot of a real cowboy and the man I want to marry, and I aim to find him." Miss Lurleen went back inside, and though she asked everybody at the ball, nobody knew who the mysterious cowboy boot belonged to. Nobody except Dwayne and Milton, and their wicked daddy, that is, but they were not talking. No. Don't ever try to ride a cow. The next day Miss Lurleen went from ranch to ranch, looking for the cowboy who owned the boot. When she came to Dwayne and Milton's ranch, both brothers tried the boot on, but it didn't fit. When Miss Lurleen had just climbed on her horse to leave, when Bubba rode up. He was dirty and sweaty and smelly from working with the cows all day, and he was only wearing one boot. Miss Lurleen jumped off her horse and ran over to Bubba. "Try this on," she cried. Bubba took his dirty old boot and pulled it on. "Much obliged, ma'am," he said, blushing. It fit perfectly. "You're my prince and cowboy boot," shouted Miss Lurleen. "I'd recognize that smell anywhere. Marry me, cowboy, and help me work on my ranch." Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy threw chicken fits. Chicken fits. Ah. But Bubba just smiled, and he and Miss Lurleen rode off into the sunset. They lived happily ever after, roping and cow poking and getting them doggies along. The end. I can't wait to read this to you in person. This is going to be so funny. But which fairy tale did that remind you of? It kind of reminded me of Cinderella. But I hope you enjoyed the story. I know I did. And I will see you guys soon. God bless.